So we're right back at it. The police report for the August 13th incident between Brian and Gabby was released. I'm going to read you the document details. This is the whole incident where somebody called the police on Gabby and Brian because of some sort of domestic issue, which we're going to read about now. If you missed the live stream that I just posted, definitely go and check it out. I took the time and timestamped it down below in the previous video. That way you can skip to where you need to skip to. But if you missed some of the updates, a lot of things like the last text message that was sent that they don't believe is Gabby, the mother believes it was actually Brian, was released. The details about that right before they went on the trip, the engagement was called off. Okay, they were supposed to get married. He was her fiance. That was called off. Which we're gonna see now, that supposedly, allegedly, he put hands on her and hit her, assaulted her. Okay, so as we get started, I've had to do this video and re-record multiple times because bits and pieces are coming out, and this is just so wild and crazy. So you know about the two women that people have been mentioning, right? The couple that was killed and shot in Utah. And so remember the post, Moonflower Community Cooperative? This woman actually works there as a cashier. That's crazy and bizarre. Okay, because now check this out, okay? You guys have had to be following everything to know what I'm talking about and know what's going on. On 8/12/2021, MCPD officers were dispatched to a report of a domestic problem that had taken place near the Moonflower Co-op. It appeared that a male and a female had left the scene traveling north on Main in a white Ford Transit van with a black ladder on the rear after the male and female engaged in some sort of altercation. It wasn't clear, but I believe it was reported that the male had been observed to have assaulted the female. I heard other officers report that they were off to look for the vehicle, and being that I had passed the Moonflower in order to get to Main Street, I stopped by there to see if any witnesses were still in the area. I found one as Chris something. I took down his phone number and I left the scene because I heard Officer D. Robbins tell dispatch he had located the suspect vehicle near the turn of Arches National Park. I heard him state that upon initiating a traffic stop, he had observed a vehicle leave its lane and strike the curb before stopping near the entrance of the park. I arrived on scene and observed as two park officers also arrived. I assisted Officer Robbins with his investigation until I was called away to a report of an intoxicated male near MRH posing a safety risk to himself or others. Before leaving, I spoke with the male driver of a van, the female passenger, and also called Chris, which I believe he's the witness, to get more information from him. All three individuals gave similar and consistent stories consisting of the basic idea that the driver of the van, a male, had some sort of argument with the female, Gabby, as I recall. The male tried to create distance by telling Gabby to go take a walk to calm down. She didn't want to be separated from the male and began slapping him. He grabbed her face and pushed her back as she pressed upon him and the van. He tried to lock her out and succeeded, except for his driver's door. She opened that and forced her way over him and into the vehicle before it drove off. No one reported that the male struck the female. Both male and the female reported they are in love and engaged to be married and desperately didn't wish to see anyone charged with crime. There were no significant injuries reported, and both agree that Gabby suffers from serious anxiety, etc. It also appeared that this incident was more accurately categorized as a mental/emotional health break than a domestic assault. I had to leave, but I understand that Officer Robbins got the male lodging through Seek Haven. Gabby retained possession of the van and they agreed to separate for the night. No charges were filed and no one wished for charges to be filed or for the separation to take place, although that was at the minimum what Officer Robbins required in lieu of making a case against Gabby for domestic assault. Gabby is a 22-year-old female who is approximately 5'2" to 5'4", and 110 to 120 pounds. While her fiance is older, taller, and much heavier than her, he had no fear for his safety and did not exhibit any indicators that he may be a victim of a battered boyfriend syndrome, etc. He was assessed to be at low risk of danger or harm as a result of his proximity to his fiancée, Gabby, Nothing further. EOS EMP. So that was from Eric Pratt, which I believe he arrived and kind of left, as he explained. Now this is Robbins, okay? And it starts off like this. On 8/12/2021 at approximately 16:44 hours, which is 4:44 p.m., I responded to a possible domestic violence in progress call. A van with both a male and female as occupants was reported leaving the area of 39 East, 100 North bound on Main Street. One of the witnesses described the vehicle as a white Ford Transit van with a black ladder on the rear with Florida license plate QFTG03. Witness Christopher reported seeing a male, later identified as Brian Laundrie, and a female, later identified as Gabrielle Petito, arguing over the phone. Christopher stated that when Brian got into the van, he saw what appeared to him as Gabrielle hitting Brian in the arm, then climbing through the driver's window as if Brian had locked her out and she was trying to find a way in. Wow. That's pretty dramatic. I located a white van that matched the description on the North Main Street at the Highway 128 turnoff. After I crossed the bridge, I was able to catch up to the van at the turnoff to Arks National Park. I confirmed the vehicle's license plate and initiated the stop. I followed the vehicle as it continued towards the entrance gate to Arks National Park. I noted the van traveling at approximately 45 miles per hour in the 15-mile-per-hour speed zone. As I activated my lights to initiate a traffic stop, I watched the van cross the double yellow dividing line in lane 1, merge to lane 2, and abruptly swerve to the right. When the vehicle swerved, both the front and rear passenger side wheels hit the curb. A short distance before the entrance gate, the vehicle came to a stop. I approached the vehicle and saw the occupants, Gabrielle and Brian, who was in the passenger seat, was crying uncontrollably. I asked Gabrielle to get out of the vehicle to speak with me. Gabrielle told me she suffers from, I don't know what, with something else. So it seems like she has more than just an anxiety. She continued, because of her so-and-so, combined with little arguments that she and Brian had been having that day, she was struggling with her mental health, which led to the incident that was reported to law enforcement. Gabrielle stated that when saw my lights, she hit Brian in the arm to get his attention, which in turn caused him to hit the curb while I was following them. I asked Gabrielle if her intention was to hurt Brian, and her response was that she did not intend to hurt him, but rather get his attention to notice me, as I was behind them with my lights on. At no point in my investigation did Gabrielle stop crying, breathing heavily, or compose a sentence without needing to wipe away tears, wipe her nose, or rub her knees with her hands. After I sat Gabrielle in the back seat of my car, I asked Brian to step out of the vehicle to speak with me. He told me that they both suffer from, and although her is more advanced than his, issues between the two had been building up over the last few days. This in turn caused them to argue more than usual. Brian told me neither he nor Gabrielle take the medication for their, and I'm not sure what, an anxiety or maybe something else. Brian explained he and Gabrielle had been traveling together for the last 4 or 5 months. That time spent created emotional strain between them and increased the number of arguments. While arguing near Main Street, he attempted to separate from her and so they could both calm their emotions. He got into their van and Gabrielle had gone into a manic state. Brian said Gabrielle, thinking he was going to leave her in Moab without a ride, went to slap him. As Gabrielle started to swing, Brian pushed her away to avoid the slap. As a result, Gabrielle, off balance, but still caught Brian's face with some fingers, causing some minor visible scratches. Brian continued that when he had seen my lights, he thought Gabrielle had grabbed the wheel of the van and pulled it, causing the van to hit the curb. I observed some small scratches to Brian's right arm, and when I asked him about it, he supposed they must have happened when Gabrielle was trying to get his attention about me being behind them with my lights on. This, however, was not consistent with Gabrielle's statement, further suggesting her confused and emotional state. After evaluating the totality of the circumstances, I do not believe the situation escalated to the level of a domestic assault as much as that of a mental health crisis. I then determined the most appropriate course of action would be to help separate the parties for the night so they could reset their mental states without interference from one another. And although they did express a desire to remain together, they both ultimately agreed to be separated until the following day. Accordingly, I was able to contact Safe Haven and get Brian a hotel for the night. I instructed both Brian and Gabrielle to take advantage of this time apart to relax their emotions and regain control of their anxiety. I also asked them to avoid contacting each other until the next morning, if at all possible. Gabrielle maintained possession of the van while I transported Brian to the hotel. They both had their own personal cell phones in case of emergencies. Around 1900 hours, 7 p.m., I went to blank where witness Christopher lived and had him fill out a statement form. Christopher told me that he was not entirely sure what it is he had seen, but feared the worst, which is why he came forward as a witness and agreed to complete a written statement. Body camera video is available on evidence.com. The statement form from Christopher has been filled out at Moab City Police Department. My mind is kind of all over the place. Now, I know earlier they said in the press conference, the reporter asked about this situation with these two women that were shot and killed. Is there any relevance? They stated that they didn't find any relevance, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But, you know, I got an email from Jennifer and she sent me this link and I see that, you know, the web sleuths are going to dig. They do a good job, do a better job than me as far as digging. I don't really. But, you know, Kylan is one of the ladies. And I've been talking about this. And the other lady's name is Crystal Turner. And we've talked about this. And like I said, I'm going to report it as a separate story. I'm going to probably have this for tomorrow. But the dates and everything is kind of strange. It's pretty close because, you know, these women that went missing August 14. I'm not saying this guy is related to them or whatever, but maybe there's some crazed person out there in the mountains or somewhere. It still doesn't make sense to me because this guy, after, you know, separating, I guess at some point they came back together because she spoke to her mother August 25th. This was after the fact of these time and dates. But he comes back with her van alone. So what happened? You know, it's strange. It's like one of those weird, quirky things. Like, holy crap, this lady worked at Moonflower. It's like one of those, I don't know, like one of those, if you ever seen Lost or something, I don't know, people just crossing paths. And these two are dead, and these two have an altercation, Brian and Gabby, at around this Moonflower place. And then now Gabby's missing. Now, the witness is not these two ladies. It's some guy named Chris or Christopher. You guys comment below. Let me know your thoughts. My mind is just racked all over with questions, but I appreciate all the people that have reached out. You know, this incident with Brian and Gabby, the altercation, was August 12th. These women go missing August 14th. You know, I don't know. It could just be one of those coincidences. But it's definitely something that I understand why even reporters and some people are talking about it. Anyway, you guys in the comments down below, tell me what you think. A quick thanks to Pretty K, to Katrina, to Michelle, to Wendy, to Alicia from the Facebook group Where is Gabby Petito, to Angela and Chick Benny for the Cash Apps, to Serafina, I forgot to mention you in the last live, and Joe Pan for the Super Chats. Take care of yourselves. Peace.